this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble a pair of baby wraparounds. The same techniques can be used for the adult wraparounds and similar techniques for moccasins, but these ones are going to be a baby wraparound pair. So this is our kit that we offer on our website. So it comes with all the supplies needed: your sinew, your glover's needle for sewing, your lacing, all your leather pieces, and your liners. Okay, so this is your bottom piece. This is going to be the main part of the moccasin. That is going to be your welt, so that's going to go in between your vamp and that bottom piece. These are your wraparound parts, and then these are your soles and your vamps. Okay, so for this video, I did another tutorial on YouTube on how to paint. So this part will show you, if you want to head over to YouTube and check out that video, we'll show you a little clip on how to trace and how to paint and how to design the moccasin. And this is what it looks like after we painted our little bear paws. You can see that was one pair I did, another pair there. So there's really a lot of options that you can use the paints for and design instead of beadwork. And you can add a little bit more color and different designs to different parts of the moccasin. You can see I did a pair of ladies wraparound, and then a really detailed custom pair for somebody, and then even a full-length pair of mucklucks. So you really can do anything you want with the paints. They're really good. So on our website we have the toddler wraparound, and you can find also the patterns. If you don't have any patterns and you want to make your own, we also offer that as well. So getting into the video, we're going to show you today on how to assemble the wraparounds if you have your own that you want to make at home. These are ours. This is a baby size or an infant size 5 that we're working with, so this is a smaller pair. So first we're going to grab our 2 soles right there, and then the bottom pieces. And on our kits we have a little piece that is our heel piece that you need to cut out. If you have your own pattern, you probably have something similar. Some people leave it on and sew it up. In my kits and my designs, I remove it, and I'll show you how to place it back in after. Okay, so the moccasins have a good side and a rough side. You want to put the good side facing outwards. So both of them have a good and a bad side. Okay, so you can see the difference there, the color. So a good way to get your center line to line up the moccasin soles is to just fold it in half. And then you have a little crease there so you can see where your middle line is. And you might have to put a little bit pressure there, or you can just do a tick mark too if you want on both ends. So kind of make a line on the top piece and on the bottom, and then you can line it up better. But this works pretty well. And then you can see the little faint outline there, so it's not permanent. And then we're just going to do the same thing with the sole. And then we have a good middle line for where we have to stick it down and sew it. Okay, so once you have your middle line there, you're going to line that up to the bottom piece there. You're going to have a little bit of space. You can see there a little bit of space where the little notch we cut out was, just to allow a little bit for seam allowance and stuff. So the next step I'm going to show you is how to attach the soles. So I'm just using just a simple white glue, and just put a little bit on the sole, and then you line it up and get it right in the spot you want, and just let it sit and let it dry for a few minutes. And then the next thing you want to do is sew that sole down to the bottom piece. I use the sewing machine. However, the kits show you step by step how to do it by hand. So if you have a sewing machine, go ahead and use that. If you don't, then you can just sew that down by hand. And then we're going to sew up the back seam here. So I'm using these little clips to keep it in place. We're just going to stitch all the way across there. Okay, so once we have it all stitched across, and you can see it's nice and clean, then we're going to put that little heel piece back in there. That little piece that we cut out earlier. I'm going to shove that in there. You might have to trim it a little bit if it doesn't fit. You gotta play with it to make sure it's in the right spot. And once you have it in the spot you like, you just want to stitch up that part. Just straight across. Right there. All right, so we have that stitched up. So then we turn it right side out, and then we have that little piece sticking out, so we're just going to trim that off. Okay, so after we're done taking that extra piece off, we're going to do the exact same thing with the liner. And this part we do not need to keep for the liner, so we can get rid of that. We're going to fold it in half so we have a middle mark. And then we're going to stitch up the back seam. And then we're going to stitch up that little part. And this one we don't add it in. Okay, once we have that done, we're going to attach the vamp to the bottom piece. So we're going to fold that in half. And then we're going to make our mark. So we have a half mark there. And then we're going to fold it again and get it into another half mark. So we have our notches for our sewing. Okay, so where I'm putting the marks right now, you can see, I'll just do a close up here. There's a little notch there. So it kind of goes downwards. It goes straight and then it goes down. That's where we're going to line up the first notch, the middle notch, and see those two line up. And then our middles will line up once we start sewing. Okay, so I'm going to grab my glover's needle and thread it with my sinew, and then we can start sewing. So once you got your glover's needle and your sinew all ready to go, a little tip is just to burn the end so it doesn't unravel when you're sewing. Okay, so we're going to, that notch that I was telling you about, that's where we're going to start our sewing. So I'm just going to do a whip stitch here. And keep going all the way till the first line that we made. So I'm just doing a straight stitch here. All the way to the first line. And then once we get to that first line, that's when we're going to start doing our bunching. So that creates the nice round shape for the toes. So for the bunching, I just use my middle finger and I kind of push as I'm going, so it makes little loops. I don't know if you can see it well in the video, but you'll see it in a second once I do a few of them. And then we want that middle notch that we made on the vamp there, that one, to line up with that one. Okay, so you got to kind of check back and forth to make sure that you're not making your loops too big, too small. You can see here in the middle they're matching up well, so I'm going to keep going, and then I'm going to go all the way till the next line, and then I'm going to want to make sure that final little line that we made is going to match up to the same notch that we started with on the other side. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's even. The bunching looks good, so I'm happy with that. So I'm going to trim it, tie it off, and then just burn it to seal it, because it does unravel. Like the sinew is a little bit waxy, so sometimes it unravels. So I found with my first few pairs that this actually was a really good trick. Okay, so now for the fun part, we're going to be doing the same thing but with the leather. The only thing that we're going to be doing differently is we're going to be flipping it inside out. You'll see in a second what I mean, because if you do it like the liner, then you're going to have your stitching on the outside, and we want to hide our stitching. So you'll see what I mean in a moment. So exact same thing. So we're going to line up our notch and make a little tick mark. Line it up there, make a little tick mark. Okay. So then we're going to flip it inside out this time. So we want the good side facing up, and then we want the vamp also to be like the good side of the bottom piece, the good side of the vamp touching, so that when we flip it inside out, you will not see any of the stitching and it will look nice and clean. Okay, so this is the welt. So we're going to have that up against that first notch, and then we're going to have these 3 layers that we're going to be sewing through now. So we have the bottom piece, we have the welt, and we have the vamp. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing as the liner. So a straight stitch there. I just used my sewing machine to get this done quickly so I could show you guys. And then we're going to start doing the crimping, or the for the toe piece, just like we did for the liner. So you can see here And I have to grab my leather thimble because it's kind of hard on the finger to go through leather sometimes. So we're just going to make those little bunches with your finger. And this trick I found, going through it twice and then making kind of a knot, holds the crimping way better than just doing a whip stitch. Then it doesn't unravel. That was kind of a trick I learned a few years into it, which I wish I would have learned way earlier. But now I know. So I'm sharing that with all of you so that you can have a better experience and learn from my mistakes. So we're just going to continue on. Same thing, we want to make sure that the middle lines line up. So the middle line on the vamp, the middle line on the bottom piece, and you want to make sure that your welt is always in there nicely. So sometimes it can slide down or slide up, and you want to make sure it's nice and even with the vamp. So you just continue all the way across until you get to the next line, and then you're just going to do a straight stitch again. So you got to keep checking, making sure that middle line is lining up and it looks good. So I'm going to keep going. And this part does take practice, but this technique of going through it twice really does help a lot. So give it a try. Okay, so now we're all done. We've done all the crimping. Now we want to make sure that this part lines up. So you might have to do one or two little bunches just to get it to line up. And I need one more, or else it's going to be a little bit crooked. So you want to make sure that the middle parts and those two tick marks are pretty on point, or else it's going to be a little lopsided. Okay, so I'm all done the crimping, and now I am going to just do a straight stitch here quickly on my sewing machine, so I can just show you guys this quickly on a video, as normally my moccasin video is quite long, so I'm just kind of doing a little shorter version for YouTube. So now that we're all done, we're going to flip it back to the correct way. So just push it in a little bit there. You kind of have to play with it. And then that's what it should look like when you're done. Okay, so you have this extra piece of the welt. I'm just going to clean up some string there. We have the extra piece, and we're just going to trim that off. So just trim it off with your scissors. Don't go too close to begin with, because you can always cut more, you can't always add more. So just keep cutting it until you're satisfied with it and it looks good. And then the next step is the hole punches for the lacing. So I like to do quite a few. Totally up to you what you want to do. But I add 4 on each side and then 2 on the vamp. And then you're going to grab your lacing. And then you're just going to string that through. And with the lacing, you just want to make sure that it's long enough that it can wrap all the way around. A little trick is to cut it at an angle, then it will go into the holes better. And then you're just going to want to start from the inside and work your way out. So just keep putting it through. And this is deer lace that comes with the kits. If you want to use anything you have at home, if you're making this from home, you totally can. Also the hole punches you can get anywhere. Like I got those ones I think from Canadian Tire, and they've been holding up really well. So okay, so you want to make sure that it's even on both sides. It looks good. And then we're going to insert the liner into the leather part now. So this takes a little back and forth and pushing. Sometimes if they're really small, you can use a pen or a marker like I did to try to get it in the correct place. And then we're going to stitch up this part here to connect the liner to the vamp. So same exact thing as we did before, just a straight stitch. You can do a whip stitch, anything you want to do. I usually like to go in between the leather and the liner to kind of hide the end of the sinew. So I'm just going to do a whip stitch all across. So just keep going all the way around. Once that is all done, you're going to grab your wraparound part. You can leave it squared. You can cut any design. If you have different scissors that cut different patterns, go ahead, do that. I'm just going to trim the edges because I like it to be a bit more rounded. I like the look. Totally preference. And then you're going to fold that in half. Make a crease just like we did with the sole, so you have your middle point. And then you can do a little tick mark if you want on one end so you know where the middle is. But you can kind of see where the line is from folding it. Depends on the color of hide you're using too. Black, it might be a little harder. So I'm going to line that up to the back seam, and then we're just going to whip stitch it all the way across until we get to where we sewed the vamp to the bottom piece. So it's just a simple stitch. I'm just going to go in between the liner and the hide, just to hide the end of the sinew, and I'm just going with a whip stitch, and then I'm just going through all 3 layers. So I'm going through the liner, I'm going through the wraparound piece, and then I'm going through the bottom piece. And sometimes you have to pull the liner up if it slides down or moves around. Just make sure it's even, it's not moving around too much. But these ones are a lot of fun to make and super cute. Like the first pair I ever made of anything was wraparounds for my son. And it's just so cute to see them wear them. And you're like, oh, I made these. Tell everyone. So yeah, that's a basic tutorial on how to put together a pair of wraparounds. And you can see how cute they actually turn out. And this is all painted, hand stitched. Like I used a little bit of the sewing machine, but the kits, I'll show you how to do it by hand. Everything comes included. I hope this video helped you in some way, and if you're interested in checking out any of our kits, you can find us on Facebook or on our website, Brittany's Handmade Designs. Thanks!